Steve, I got a $10 microphone at Goodwill. That's a $200 microphone. Very excited about that. Do I
Bargain for
sound
you.
better? Should I sound any different?
Sound much better.
Thank you for inflating my ego, even if that's not true at all.
But now, if you have two good microphones, I guess that means you're going to have to tag tone with a co-host over there at the house someday.
Well, that or I could just you already have a microphone, but I could just give you one of these microphones next time I see you. Okay. Anyways, hi. It's
Hello,
the Stuff Summer Says podcast with
Steve.
Steve. How are you doing?
Wonderful. It's a
There
podcast.
we go. Getting all of our shticks in. It's like our
That's right.
norm joke.
Checking the
Yeah,
box.
it's like our
Yeah.
yep.
Norm.
Norm. Our conversation today is a great one because we unofficially kick off football season today. I think is the best way to say it because we will have our 2025 Penn State football media or Penn State football extravaganza, bonanza, blast, supreme show at some point over
Okay.
the course of the next month and a half. But I'm not ready to do that yet. We're not there yet. But what we do have today is what has now become a hallmark tradition of the Stuff Summer Says with Steve Media Empire, which is our media survey, kicking off the year that way.
It's like Christmas in July.
Yes, it is. And then we also have a great conversation with Mr. Joe Smeltzer, who works for Nittany Sports Now, covers the teams. And it's a good conversation about kind of finding his place and finding his voice, and I appreciated his honesty there. So go ahead, take a listen to that. We'll get you the survey results. We've got some Barstool stuff to talk about. We've got some Big Ten stuff to talk about. We're gonna talk about everything and anything today. Again, we're talking about football, so it's a big. We're excited. It's a big season opening episode, if you will. Go ahead and listen to our interview. We'll be back after this. Steve, we are joined by the person who loves The Sopranos more than anyone I know. Maybe not more than anyone I know, but at least he emphasizes his love of The Sopranos to me in Twitter DMs all the time. So I appreciate him being here. His name is Mr. Joe Smeltzer. He is the writer for Nittany Sports Now. Joe, have you finished your rewatch? That's the
I
first question.
have.
Okay.
It's my third rewatch. I finished it last month. But yeah, that's probably my favorite show of all time. That and Breaking Bad are the top
Oh,
two.
I forgot you
But
like Breaking Bad too.
Those
Yes.
are solid. Those are solid.
yep.
Joe, thank you for joining us. Good to have you here. Good to have a conversation with you. I do appreciate when you ask me, any of my thoughts on The Sopranos. But I want to ask you your thoughts on covering Penn State media or Penn State football, and working in Penn State media. I guess for those that don't know your, let's say, origin story, how and why did you want to become a Penn State beat writer, and how did you kind of get that process going?
Yeah, and thanks you guys again for having me on. It was I don't want to say it was an accident because I was in media and I was looking to advance in my career as any 23-year-old would have been, but basically November 2021 it was the middle of the season. Well, I should say October because I started talking with Nittany Sports Now in October, but I was covering high school sports for the Observer Reporter, doing a lot of football games, basketball. I was a stringer, so I just did whatever article they wanted me to write, and then I get paid for it. But I got direct message from a friend who also works in media, Logan Carney, and he said that they were looking for people to help with the Penn State site on Nittany Sports Now, which is, for those who don't know, it's under the Pittsburgh Sports Now umbrella. So it's Pittsburgh Sports Now, which covers Pitt, West Virginia is West Virginia, Penn State is Penn State, and then there's a pro sports portion to the site too, which covers Pirates, Steelers, Penguins. So it's mainly Pittsburgh based, but there is Nittany Sports Now as the Penn State branch. So I knew my boss, Alan Saunders, a little bit, just mainly through social media. Alan's just a nut on social media. I mean that in a good way. But I knew him. I had a few exchanges. Met in person, I think, once or twice. So yeah, I reached out to Alan. We just went through the typical interview process, and I got the job, I think, the week of the Ohio State game when they played at Ohio State in 2021 under the lights, before Big Noon came in. But yeah, I got offered the job and I accepted the job the week of the Ohio State game. It was too late to apply for credentials, so I started with Maryland the week after. And my first game from the press box was when Jahan Dotson broke the Penn State receiving record. So it was pretty notable. And then, um, obviously, we're not supposed to root, but the team did get better in 2022, which allowed for me to go to the Rose Bowl and then three more New Year's Six Bowls since then. So it's been a pretty good experience, and as we all know, this year's team could be the best not only at the Franklin era, but we're talking about the upside of maybe one of the best Penn State teams of all time.
I'm curious from you and your perspective. A lot of the people that we have on this podcast that sit in a familiar similar role as you, either graduated from Penn State and worked their way up through the collegiate and kind of came in that way, or have been around the beat for quite a while. That they are, I would say, more, lack of a better term, insider as opposed to you coming in more of an outsider. I guess, what was the biggest challenge of that transition, and kind of what has been the biggest change in that process for you in terms of understanding a much bigger beat like Penn State football compared to high school athletics?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is just that being a part of a beat. I had never really been a part of one before. I had been a part of like a newspaper, obviously with the Observer reporter, but when I would cover the games, it would just be me covering the games, and I didn't really have to worry about press conferences. If I wanted to talk to a coach for a feature story, I could just email the coach, and the coach would get back to me. Find a way to talk to the athlete, and it was all pretty easy. And the same way it was with me in college, I went to Waynesburg University, and that was kind of the same thing. I did work for a larger newspaper staff, but at the same time, there was only one person covering the games, and I could text any head coach I wanted. I could text any athlete I wanted, but with Penn State, there's obviously a lot more red tape that goes on there. Obviously, if you want to get an interview with James Franklin, you got to go through the SID. You got to get James to agree to it, and it really goes through. It's like that for any player slash assistant coach too. So, just the challenge of getting content is hard too, because obviously a lot of people are listening to the same stuff you are in press conferences. You have to find a way to be creative. And then just I think the in game, being in a press room with however many people, it's just different. So I'd say the biggest challenge is just being having competition really, because for my time at Waynesburg, for my time with the Observer, I didn't really think about competition too much because whatever stories I wrote were exclusively mine, and now it's not that way, and I got to think a little more. So.
In terms of access or getting those requests for stuff, what's the response been like? How has it changed through the past couple of years for you in terms of them knowing your stuff, or at least you being able to get a request done or something like that? How has that changed for you, if it has?
Yeah, I haven't. I was taught basically that the less you have to rely on Penn State for stories, the better. And I've kind of gone through that. I haven't really reached out to Penn State too much and said if I want to write about a player, I like to talk to like high school coaches, high school teammates, whoever. I like to kind of do my stuff that way. But I think as far as just being more known on the beat, I think little things like Penn State's beat is so big that not everybody's going to get called on in a weekly Zoom availability, and certainly not everybody's going to get called on in a 10-minute post game Franklin press conference. But I was called on in James's presser a few times last season. I think that's a sign that I'm a little more known, and it's just kind of little stuff like that that makes me think, hey, maybe I'm progressing here a little bit. So.
As someone who consumes the stuff, maybe it's not so much the column, but there's an art to the emails I get from you guys, whether it's you or somebody else, the art of the tease, right? Like, here's the email that gets me 4 lines of enough that's like, well, okay, I'm curious, or there's a little more that I got. So can you talk us through that process? I mean, because there's the side, whether you're writing something straightforward, here's the news, versus, okay, I'm sending this email out, I want to get them interested here to get them to the website, which is, what's that process like, and how important are those teases for you?
Oh yeah, I think that it's kind of a hard thing, right? Because if a recruit commits to Penn State, you got to think about, do I want the name of the recruit? Do I want the position? How much do I want to give out? But really, I think I just kind of look at it on a case by case basis. So if, like, for example, if somebody does commit to Penn State, I'm going to look and it's like, for example, I don't know if I did it exactly this way when he committed because I was very early on the beat, but if Vega Ione were to commit to Penn State now, while he was from Washington State, Penn State doesn't get players committed from Washington State, right? So I would make that the focus of the headline. Like, why is this commit different than the last guy that committed or the guy before that? So it's really stuff like that, and just kind of trial and error. Obviously SEO is a big thing too. Like, you want to have the key thing be the key phrase. That's why I love writing wrestling stories, because it seems like anything with Penn State wrestling attached to it is just going to blow up. But yeah, I think really I don't really have a set plan because every story is different. I just got to think. I think of a story I've written that's similar, and I want to see, like, okay, I've written something like this before. I had this headline and it worked. I'll try to do something similar to that. Or if it's something distinctly different, I'll highlight that difference.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think
Yeah.
one of the things that I think about with Nittany Sports Now in general, and really you is, and really the whole Pittsburgh Sports Now brand is kind of this like breaking news hub of information. In that, like, I'm getting the latest, and no, you guys aren't necessarily going to give me a whole feature article, but you are going to give me something a little bit more quick hit that gets me the news that I need to know. What is your barometer for this is story worthy or not?
That's a great question. Basically, I think the easiest way is this something that I would read? And I put myself in the position of a reader. It's like, if I write this story, would I myself read it if somebody else wrote it? So that's the big thing. And I think but there are cases where, like, the transfer portal, I think, is a great example where, say, obviously this past year Penn State needed a receiver, needed a few receivers, and needed linebackers. So anytime a linebacker or a receiver from another school would enter the portal and he was good, I'd be all over it because I knew people were going to read that. It's like, everybody knows Penn State needs a receiver. Everybody knows Penn State needs whatever. This guy's entering the portal. Is he even thinking about Penn State? Does Penn State have history with him? It doesn't really matter. A receiver is in the portal and people are going to think, okay, Penn State might want to get this guy. So I think most of the time I like to think about myself personally, but there's also times where I've written enough of these type of stories to where I know that something is going to work. And the transfer portal is a great example of that. I think anytime, and this is a sad truth with media in general, but negative stuff really does well. So if somebody rips James Franklin, people are going to want to see if they either agree or disagree. They're going to get their eyes on it. So, just basically, I would say anything that I myself find interesting and anything that I know enough to know that others will find interesting, I'll be all over that as far as breaking news goes.
How much do you have to, as we get closer to the season, we're Big Tens this week, and the season, it seems like then there's like a regular kind of schedule and routine of things. How do you differentiate when the season begins? Everybody's kind of more or less getting the same access. How do you try to find something that moves the needle for you then?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. As far as the season begins, I look at the local media day more so than the Big Ten media days for, like, the unofficial start to that, because that is literally the opening of fall camp. So that's why I kind of look at it as. I try to, well, as far as, like, getting stuff from, like, press conferences, I write what others are going to write first. So, for example, if there's an injury update, that's the first thing I'm writing after the press conference. So, because the other stuff, maybe people will write about it, maybe they won't, but I'll have more time to do it since nobody else has done it. So, that is a big challenge as far as, like, differentiating on what other people are going to write about. I think one story that did very well, and I was glad that I jumped on this, was national early signing day 2 years ago. Franklin made, like, a passing comment to wanting to get the top player for 2025 to commit to Penn State, which was Zaire Mathis. I think he was committed to Ohio State at that point. Well, I made a whole article out of that one little comment, and it did very well because nobody else was doing it. So I think it's just trying to find the Easter eggs. Like maybe Franklin says something or a player says something in passing that nobody else is going to notice, and kind of turning that. And it's not always great to blow something out of nothing, but at the same time, if you listen close enough, maybe like a small little comment, you could write a bigger story based on that, based on information that's away from that comment. So that's I think the key thing is thinking about something that other people aren't going to touch.
How has that? How have you fine tuned that process now that you've been on the beat? Like, do you feel like that has gotten your ability to pick out the Easter eggs has gotten stronger?
Yeah, I would say so. Um, it's just like anything else. It's like if you do it more often, you're going to improve at it. And I think that applies to like covering a few transfer portal cycles and knowing that transfer portal stuff is going to be big. It's like stuff with Penn State wrestling, how to, I used to do like a live file for the dual meets, but I stay away from that stuff anymore. My strategy is more so match by match. I pick out the matches that had interesting outcomes and write little blurbs on that, and those will just go off. I don't really know why, but those seem to do very well. I think it's just the fine tuning it. It just goes by if you write enough articles, you're going to write different types of articles. And then by differentiating the types of stories you write, what's going to do well, what's going to interest you, what's going to interest the readers. And I think, as far as fine tuning goes, yeah, I think that just the more that I listen to people talk, the more that I write stories on specific things, the more I know whether it's going to be worth my time or whether it isn't going to be.
Is there a what is the third thing after football and wrestling that performs well?
Basketball is like hit or miss. Because obviously Penn State basketball is never going to be the huge draw in Happy Valley. But for example, obviously March 2023, that was a very good month as far as basketball goes because you had the team making that run in the Big Ten tournament, then winning a game in the NCAA's, Micah Shrewsbury leaving, Mike Rhodes getting hired, all of that. But as far as the first sport goes, I don't know. Football and wrestling are pretty firm one and two. Obviously, with what hockey has done this season, we haven't had the manpower to cover too much hockey in recent years. But now that obviously Gavin McKenna's here, Jackson Smith is here, national title favorites, we're probably gonna have to do a little more of that, and we'll kind of see like what works with hockey too, because we don't really know like what types of hockey stories are going to work as opposed to football and wrestling and even basketball. So, yeah, I'd say probably our goal would be to make hockey that number three.
What
Gotcha.
what does success look like for you, and what are you? How are you measuring that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really easy to get sucked up in page views. And that one of the most frustrating things I think about being on this beat is I could write like 800, 1100 word story that I'm very proud of, but it won't do much as far as traffic goes. That's just kind of the nature of the beast, right? People like those quick hitters. People like Paul Feinbaum talking about Franklin or whatever. People like stuff about guys entering the transfer portal that Penn State probably isn't even going to get. People like that stuff more than they like, the fine tuned features. But as far as success goes, I just kind of uh compare everything to where it was, where when I got here in November 2021, then things are a lot better now. So I think just an easy thing in life is to compare things. So compare where you were now to where you were when you started. That puts things into perspective. And also, every day is brings us certain challenges. So, at the end of the day, like if you set goals at the beginning and you see if you meet them at the end, I think that's a good way to do it too, because obviously, yesterday's over, and the only thing you can focus on is what's going on right now. So I think if you leave every day thinking that knowing that you did all you could do to make that successful, I think that's successful in and of itself.
Beyond your stuff, like how much time or what are the things you're looking at in terms of the competition piece or knowing what other people are doing. You kind of know what's working for you. You're trying to get better than we did before. Is there stuff you're looking at or trying to compete with or at least know this out there? Okay, well, they're doing that, then I'm not going to do that, even though I was thinking I was doing it or something else.
Yep. Yes and no. I don't look too much at like the bigger sites like 24/7 and On Free because I know I can't compete with them, and that's just the reality of it. On Free isn't just Penn State; that's a national brand. 24/7, same type of deal. I know I can't compete with that, but that doesn't mean I can't take things, from those sites, because obviously we cover recruiting. Those are two of the best recruiting sites that there are, and I'll throw rivals in there too. Although that's part of On Free now, but you can take elements of other stuff. But I think it's the cliche is comparison is the theft of joy, and I really do believe in that. I think looking too much at other sites could be a little harmful because at the same time, and James Franklin says it's a lot too. You're running your own race, and I think if I just focus on what I need to get done, regardless of what anybody else does, I just that's a healthy thing. I think is to just kind of run my own race, do my own thing.
Gotcha. Thank
Joe giving us life advice here. That is what this interview has really turned into. One of the things I think is interesting about Nittany Sports Now in particular is, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, you've built a community a little bit. Sorry about the dogs. You've built a community online. What have you done to kind of plant and sow that audience and sow those seeds?
Yeah. And I haven't done as great a job at that this summer because I'm trying to stay off of Twitter a little bit, which is kind of it's a heck of a tightrope, right? I need it for my job, but it can also be a cesspool. But no, I think the big thing is, asking questions that, people can respond to. If I give an opinion, if I give one of my opinions on Penn State sports, unless it's like kind of a divisive opinion, that might not get too many interaction. People can't really say too much to that. Like if I write, I think Trevor Pena is going to be the number one receiver on this team. People are going to look at that, but are they going to be inspired to write like, yeah, I agree with that? No, that's kind of, but if I say I throw a picture of LeVar Arrington or whoever and say, what's the first thing that comes to mind? People are going to have things come into their mind and they're going to want to type that out. So I think just, asking your audience questions, getting them involved instead of just, reading your stuff and having opinions or lack thereof on it. I think that's very helpful. Now, what I need to do a better job of is when people comment to me, I need to respond to them and get a little dialogue going. But no, I just think that a way to just getting the audience involved by typing stuff that they're going to have thoughts on and they're going to want to respond to and not call you names while you're doing it. I think that's pretty good, and I think that's a big reason why that community has kind of developed over the past few years.
How do you handle the negative that comes with that? How do you tune out the haters, if you will?
I never really had a problem with that, to tell you the truth. As far as like people I actually know, go, I'm a little more thin-skinned when it comes to that. But for whatever reason, online hate, never really, I haven't gotten a ton of it, thankfully. But the stuff I have gotten, I've been able to just kind of roll off of it because I don't know these people. I have no reason to really interact with them, and if there's times when I respond, there's times when I don't respond. But I don't know. It just kind of the stuff people say online is never really. Uh, I just haven't really paid any mind to it. I think that's one of my strengths.
Again, life advice from Joe. That is what we were
you.
getting out of this podcast. Steve, did you have something? Sorry, I didn't.
No, I'm
Okay,
good with
good.
life advice. That was great.
Okay.
We're doubling up on that. That's
Yeah,
even
see,
better.
No. I guess, Joe, what does a successful, as you kind of set out and begin the season, we know what a successful season for Penn State football looks like, but what does a successful season look like for you? Like, what are you trying to accomplish this football season?
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm focusing on growing our YouTube channel. That's a good way to increase revenue, obviously, and also just to increase our name out there. I think I like the content we have on the site, but I think a good next step would be, building up that YouTube channel, getting views for that. We have a podcast called Joe and the Fat Man with myself and Kyle Golick. And it was, if you see Kyle, it would make sense. Kyle's the one that came up with it. I did not force that name. But no, it's I feel that just getting into like a rhythm with that podcast, booking guests in advance, just getting increasing the amount of videos throughout the week, because obviously I think our YouTube has done pretty well with post game interviews, with posting Franklin's press conference, posting player interviews, but just getting more stuff out there through YouTube and being able to promote that, I think that's a big next step. So if I could do a successful job with that, I think that's going to be big for my confidence and big for the site too, and that would be a big stepping stone and leading to what would be a successful year. And Penn State winning would obviously help with all that too.
Never hurts. That's the truth.
That's the truth. All right, Joe. You're at a Penn State or by job title, so we want to know what is your go-to creamery ice cream flavor?
I'll be boring. I'm still calling it Peachy Paterno.
Okay.
So that will.
I think that we need to go back and listen. I think that one is probably the most frequent answer on this podcast.
Maybe we can task the intern. Do we have an intern? No,
we don't. We can hire one of those. All right, Joe. Well, thank you for joining us. This was a great conversation. Where can people find all of the stuff, you and Nittany Sports Now and the YouTube page and everything else?
Sure. Yeah. So Nittany Sports Now, the site is just what it's titled, Nittany Sports Now. Our Twitter account is at NittanySN. My personal account is at Joe Smeltzer 775 on Twitter. The YouTube account, same type of deal, just Nittany Sports Now. Facebook, Nittany Sports Now. And yeah, those are the main go-tos as to where to find our content.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Great. Thank you.
Steve, first off, I always appreciate Joe's like energy. I just enjoy his energy and what he brings to the table. I was interested and eager and found it unique how he's was kind of almost not thrown in, but kind of sort of thrusted into this situation and has taken it and run. And I do think, to his credit, Nittany Sports Now has become one of the bigger voices in the Penn State beat, and I think Joe even kind of alluded to it there. You're not necessarily going to get the feature stuff. You're not necessarily going to get like it necessarily heavy in-depth stuff per se, but you are going to get information and you're going to get it concisely, clearly, cleanly. And I appreciate that from him and really the whole gang there. I think it's interesting to hear him talk about his reflection on like growing, because he has grown, and it's been fun to like watch him grow as like both a writer and just a beat writer, and really developing and finding his voice. I think that's been the best, most unique part about watching Joe over the past few years.
Yeah, I think if you're consuming their stuff, his stuff, they know where they fit. He knows where they fit, right? There's things you can do, because of geography, because of familiarity, because of access, and they've found the right buttons to push that seem to work for them and also serve fans. And I'm a big believer in serving fans however you can and doing it the right way. And I think they're doing that in terms of where they, what they can do for a Penn State sports fan.
I thought it was interesting to hear him debate what the third sport is, if there really is a third sport. I thought that was a good question by you, because I think that's something like we do see a drop off at Penn State. And I think even we see that drop off in a bizarre way, because we see it most of the time for Nittany Sports Now, the CDT, any of really the more local papers. It go from, instead of going from football to basketball, it goes football to wrestling. And I think it's interesting to hear how important and pivotal that is for strategy. And then it's fascinating to think about how, to Joe's point, like how people are going to have to kind of change their strategy around hockey, particularly just because that's what people are going to want to consume. Kind of going back to your point of being a part of or serving the fan. So I thought that was good. Appreciated Joe hopping on. He was watching the Pirates game, so appreciate him interrupting his Pirates watching.
Especially what could be a rare win, so good for him.
Okay, let's move on. I think there's a natural progression, as I told you here earlier today for the rundown, and I think it flows nicely. We will begin with the main topic of the week in the sports media, college sports media realm, which is that the Barstool Sports Gang is going to be invading Fox Sports' media empire in a few different ways. First and foremost, it seems like Dave Portnoy will be the answer to ESPN's Pat McAfee, and I think this is what's interesting and fascinating to me. And just I think first and foremost, pretty well known, I don't like Barstool. I have never liked Barstool. Even though I am in that age grade and age demographic, and I do understand the move from that perspective. But I just don't know what Portnoy, what the Barstool media empire adds to any of my consuming of college football in particular, that enhances it, other than just another loud voice. And I think that's what is disappointing about this most of all from Fox, because it's not unique. It's a repeat of the same strategy they had when they went and took Bear away from College Game Day over to Fox, and even Tom Rinaldi to a degree, right? I feel like we've gotten Gene Wojciechowski's and some other names, et cetera, to kind of fill in those Tom Rinaldi cry my eyes out shoes, particularly on College Game Day. And I think, to me, this does not differentiate them and is a miss in terms of how to elevate that program, to get that program to be taken more seriously. That's the way I think about it. Do I think that's the way it's going to play out? No, because I know how passionate Barstool people are about the Barstool brand, Portnoy, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, to me, I think that's why they went and did this, because it was just too easy of an opportunity not to pass up.
So how do you think it's going to play out?
I think you're just going to have a more divisive gap of people that don't like Barstool and or don't like Fox tuning out, and then you're going to have more people, the people that love Barstool or like Fox, tuning even more in. But I don't think it's going to beat out what College Game Day has from the mass populace that is the default switch to turn on College Game Day every Saturday morning.
Okay, I didn't know where you were with them. Like, not to be, well, it's going to sound flip, but the closest I get to Barstool is I know they have a bar in Nashville, right? Like, and I think I could get there sooner than I could get to one of their websites. Like, it's not, I'm not in their age demographic. It doesn't make sense to me. It's mean-spirited. It's divisive. It works, but it's not what I'm interested in. And I think from Fox's perspective, well, watching Fox with what they've done with college football, from my perspective, watching what Fox has done, the only original idea they've had about college football, and it's a very good idea, and I do like this idea, is noon games. Like, that's the only idea that's theirs and original, that they're going to embrace it, and it works. The rest of it, like this move, as you said, they've done this before. This is thinking back in terms of TV programming. This is, and I don't know which one was successful first, but this is the Addams Family responding to the Munsters. This is I Dream of Jeannie responding to Bewitched. Oh, you've got one of those? We need one of those. You've got a loud thing? You've got a show that works by this concept? Let's make one of these concepts in our own. So it's not original that way, but they look at ESPN and say, oh, that works. We should be able to do this. And you can't do it because you clearly don't care about college football the way ESPN does. Because Dave Portnoy means we care about the Big Ten, we care about being loud, we care about getting clicks and some headlines and doing some weird things. We don't care about the sport itself. And for as much as that'll attract that core group, and there's people, ESPN is trusted because it cares about the sport itself. No matter how much Desmond Howard's laugh may grate on you if you think he laughs too much, no matter how much, I don't know, you think that Pat McAfee's a shill, but he seems genuine. I mean, he's a genuine shill. Like I don't might not know where the show ends with Stephen A. Smith, but I know where it begins and ends with Pat McAfee, I think. So I think that's the tough part. This is true to Fox's DNA, because I don't think they know or really care about college football. because I don't think they care about more than the Big Ten, but they don't have to because that's who they carry. So yeah, I wasn't watching anyway just to check in and make sure it hasn't gotten any better each year. I'll check in once this year just when Penn State has a big noon game because I have to. But I don't need some other guy yelling at me. I don't need some other person, dismissing something or creating controversy just to create. I'd like to have some insights and some information, and that's not the direction they're moving with this.
I think that's where I struggle with it too. That them not giving me more insights. They're not doing anything to elevate the experience, and I think the Barstool-ness of it is it's both a conservative leaning base. It's a male leaning base. It does not broadly and massively appeal to growing an audience. It is just probably enhancing the same audience that you have. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are a little apprehensive about Pat McAfee is they don't want to see that go away on College Game Day, which has been the gold standard for really any of these types of shows. I mean, obviously, like there really only is one College Game Day, but any pre-game show, right? Like take any sport, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the MLB, like you are tuning into College Game Day because it is a part of the event, but you're also getting very well educated from Kirk, from Desmond, you're going to get some really insightful stories, and you're going to get the day teed up on this nice platter. And I think, to me, that's what Fox is really missing here is this insightfulness with credibility, and I don't think that this adds to the credibility by any shape or fashion. I think about something else that you said there, and I saw a couple of people that mentioned this. Does the Big Ten, I feel like this move is going for this. Does the Big Ten have a voice, period? Like, does it have a voice? Like, when you think about the Big Ten and media analysts, who do you think of?
Oh, you're right. It doesn't have one. No, I mean, it doesn't have Paul Feinbaum. I mean, if that's what people are saying, this is what they're. But look, Paul Feinbaum was a journalist before he did this stuff. Paul Feinbaum knows what he's doing, right? Like, and not that Portnoy doesn't, but Paul Feinbaum did reporting before he did this and has sources in college football. People are going to pick up his phone. Maybe Big Ten people are going to pick up the phone from Portnoy and those folks when they call just because they're celebrity journal, sports betting people, whatever they are. So I think there's a difference there in terms of just substance. And I mean, I'm not, it sounds like we're dismissing a guy who's made millions and is successful. Hey, that's great. Glad it's working for you. It's just not something that interests me, and I'll be interested to see how many more people it interests in terms of driving viewership or not.
And I think that's what I think about. Like, I don't feel conference pride, I guess, in the way that Paul Feinbaum is the pallbearer for conference pride in the SEC. Because that's never been a
college
Big Ten
football
thing.
in the South, right? Like, he's like the next iteration of Beano Cook, and I mean he's about college football and about the community and about the region and whatever else. I don't know that I totally believe the stuff he says about James Franklin, but it works. Right? And he has the credibility of, well, he was at Vanderbilt. I saw him, whatever. He hasn't proven it yet. And until James wins a few big games, Paul Feinbaum's not wrong. So, yeah. And Portnoy doesn't come with that credibility for me unless he's walking to town and, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
You don't trust his pizza rankings? Is that what you're saying?
I know this is this might be one of the most clear old guy, young guy things in terms of pop culture consumption that we've had. I've seen like 3 episodes of stuff that he's done ever. Like, it's just not in my wheelhouse. Like, I mean, it should be, I guess, so I should be aware, but it's just not, so.
I just think it's an appeal to a younger male demographic. I think that's what is happening here. Let me pause real quick to go deal with the dogs. Hold on. We'll be back after this.
Show's going to the dogs.
Steve, thank you for dealing with the dogs as they howl at nothing. I don't know. Probably the neighbor dog is barking. Bolt is howling at
all the doors. You're safe. Just make sure nobody's upstairs.
No,
God forbid you walk up there and.
No, if the wiener dog would murder someone if somebody entered this house. So, yeah. I don't know what they are howling about tonight. That's
great.
Okay. Yeah. Let's move on to the
People to
media.
meet people who do trust, people who are
Yes.
trusted in the media.
And that is the the accounting firm of the Stuff Summer Says with Steve Media Empire, which of course relates to our annual third annual.
We should give the accounting firm a name. What street do you live on? What's your dog's middle name? It's be like that'd be the thing, right?
That's that you're trying to get my password there. I think is what you're really trying to go after. It is now the third annual, I think, preseason Penn State's football media survey. I call it football media survey this year because I feel like we tend to focus primarily our media consumption through Penn State football as opposed to any other sport. We did not ask all but one questions. I think was on last year's. I think we swapped out one for a new one, which we'll get to here. I want to say thank you to everybody that basically joined or submitted. Great number of responses once again. I'm floored when we do this of the people that leave, not just leave their thoughts, but leave thoughtful thoughts. And I appreciate that the most because this is something we just do for fun. That being said, as we go through these results, just for fun, not done in any scientific or Quinnipiac-esque fashion. We just did this for fun. So, where would you like to? What would you like to know?
Start at the beginnings. Just work your way through.
All right. Well, I forgot I gotta see what the questions were. All right. So we asked this year, per usual, which of the following publications do you read for Penn State sports coverage? We got a ton of different responses. 17 different places were listed this year, and I appreciate that we're on 17. We're marked at least once. Okay. In fifth place. Also in fifth place last year, our friends Penn Live. Johnny McGonigal. Congratulations to him. Going to cover the Eagles and Penn State this year. That's a big deal for him professionally, and of course, everybody else that kind of goes along with that. Joe Hermit as well. They came in at 5 again this year. Not ranked last year, and in fourth place, the place that helped foster both of our media careers, the Daily Collegian.
Okay.
Very, very excited and happy to see the Collegian on here this year as a Collegian alum.
Yeah.
Third, Lions 247.
Okay.
They were not ranked last year as well, and they are ranked in the top.
Big
5.
shakeup in the polls this year.
Yes. That leaves 2 places left. One of which is also a student publication. The bitter rival of the Collegian, Onward State, coming in at second.
Okay.
Congratulations to them. They were third last year, so they did slide up. I appreciate that. And in first place, once again, the People's Champ, the gang at Blue White Illustrated. They will be happy to hear and find out about this when we post this later on.
So who fell out?
I did not keep track on that. I believe the one
was the Athletic.
There
up there
was one that did, and that is the Athletic. And that one fell pretty hard for obvious reasons, which is a question that we asked on the survey this week. So we'll get there in a second. Actually, let's go there now. We asked people if they pay for Penn State news, basically. So do they subscribe to places like On3, Lions 247? The Athletic was one of the places I think we listed. And then we also listed Roar Plus. I don't know that if anybody hit Roar Plus. But 61% of the people who responded say that they do pay. And that was about a little bit lower than where we were last year. But I think that's probably about, if we did this poll a bunch of different times, where we would end up. And I think that checks out, right? Like, I pay for On3 and Lions 247. Do you pay for anything?
I don't pay for anything, but 2 out of 3 people that are Penn State sports fans are paying for something.
Right.
That doesn't sound ridiculous to me, right? Whatever it is.
And I think
one source at least.
I think the other thing that could be left broad interpretedly there too is like people still subscribe to newspapers, and whether you are or aren't necessarily, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how that space kind of grows and goes over the next year or so. I think. Just because I think with the combination of On3 and Rivals, I am anxious about the quality of the conversations I'm having with other fans on the message boards. I'm also very fascinated, and we're going to go through and spend some time this week looking at it with Roar Plus and what that conversation happens. It looks like, and can I, back to our interview with Morgan, like, can that have an authentic, clean, clear space? Will be interesting to see. But along with that, we also asked this year, and let me get the phrasing of the question correct here. Hold on, where is it? As I struggle to find the actual document. Open up the spreadsheet because I only pulled the answers. Okay. The question we asked: did you recently unsubscribe from The Athletic given the news there will be no dedicated Penn State coverage this season? And we asked there were three possible answers. There was yes, no, canceled it, or no, didn't have it. Of the people that said that they either had it or canceled it, 27% of those who basically had an athletic subscription said that they canceled it because Audrey, I don't know if leaving The Athletic is being forced to leave The Athletic, I guess would be the best way to say that.
She's just no longer.
Yeah, she's no longer at The Athletic, would be the best way to say that. And I think that is probably like that. When that number came out, I was like, oh, that's maybe actually about where I think of it, just from the number of comments I saw from people. Oh, I'm canceling. And I think, I wrote about this a while back, but it's something I struggled with The Athletic in particular. Like, what is the value of this? And am I getting enough value out of that? And I think as we kind of go into a more subscription-based economy, like, that's what I'm asking myself consistently. And I can understand that if you were a Penn State fan and pretty much only primarily a Penn State fan, or if you're a Penn State fan and only to a degree an Eagles or Steelers fan, like, I can understand why you would be annoyed and cancel your subscription, because you're going to get that value to a degree somewhere else. And I'm interested to see, what Audrey does, but that's the only thing that you are paying for the talents of Audrey. You are not necessarily paying for the talents of the Athletic broadly, particularly for those 27% who can't cancel.
Yeah, I mean, like I have not canceled yet, just because for me, I got Richard Deitch at The Athletic. I've got some other sports business stuff that keeps me there, but I don't know what's going to fill my Penn State void, right? Like, and she, in terms of her perspective, because going back to the Joe discussion, right? How do you differentiate yourself? She always did a good job of finding something different, because that was what she was tasked to do. She did a good job of it. I don't know who does that now, so it'll be interesting to see who that is this season.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I just don't understand the logistics of doing that with the team. And we'll get into this, but that has very legitimate national championship expectations on them, and also has the largest alumni base in the world, and all of these other things. Okay. That being said, let's get to the beat writer competition, if you will. We always ask who is our top 5 beat writers. Coming in at number 5, I think for the first time this name has appeared on this list. Mr. Tyler Donahue, over at Lions 247. I think they do a nice job. He kind of is the quarterback of that whole gang, if you will, and I think he does a nice job of quarterbacking them and guiding them. The trend of the Blue White Illustrated guys continues through spots 4 and 3. Ryan Snyder taking home number 4, down from 2, and Sean Fitz, who was number 1 last year, down to number 3. Sorry, Sean. I'm sorry that you fell from 1 to 3. I am unfortunately have to announce that number 2, I'm worried that will go to his ego when he hears this news that Mike Poorman is people's number 2 favorite beat writer. We're never.
You think it's going to go to his ego? I think he's waiting to hear who's number 1, so he knows what to be angry.
Oh, okay, that's true. And number 1, going back to our conversation, Audrey Snyder. People, I think, just know and trust Audrey, and I think that's extremely important. And I think that came through, and that comes through in some of the comments we collected later. Okay,
Foreman will spin that as he's the top rated person still covering the beat.
Yeah, he'll person born in the 1800s is how he'll spin that. Hopefully he's listening. Love you, Mike. You're our favorite. Okay. We asked people, do they listen to podcasts? This was up a little bit. I think we were around like 77% last year. 81% said they listen to podcasts.
Nice.
Which I thought was cool. And on that top 5 list, at number 5, a relative newcomer to the list, but speaking of Audrey Snyder, the Nittany Dispatch with her and John, which is a great podcast and one that I listen to. At number 4, a little known podcast called Stuff Summer Says with Steve. Again,
were they on the list before?
We were on the list. We were number 2 last year. We've fallen hard.
Wow. Maybe we should protest the results.
Yeah, that's what we're saying here. And then at number 3, Lions 247's podcast. They were 4 last year. And I think this one's very fascinating. He was number 5 last year and is at number 2 this year. Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall. Kind of continuing his growth. I think we've seen him become a major voice for Penn State in a lot of different ways. Like both talking about the football team, both particularly the X's and O's, and I find insightfulness from that. But also some of the NIL stuff and some of the alumni stuff that he does, I think is a good added value to the Penn State media sphere. And then number 1, also the Blue White Illustrated Gang, second year, at least the second year in a row.
Nice.
Okay. Got 2 more questions for you. Favorite place to watch? Nothing too surprising. We did see a little bit of growth for NBC, who was number 1, from 42 last year to 44% this year. CBS went from 30% last year to 35% this year, which I think is mildly of note. The big one that goes back to our initial segment here in the second half of the podcast, and I think sums up how people have really started to feel about Fox. BTN is now number 3 ahead of Fox. So 12% of people said BTN and 10% said Fox.
Wow.
So so BTN went from 8% to 12%, and Fox went from 20% to 10% year over year.
Well, and I think the thing that's interesting with them, and we'll talk about it during the season because Penn State's going to be a top 2, top 5 team. It is the perception and the energy of brought to a Penn State broadcast by that team and about Penn State, right? Like, it's never been the world famous Penn State marching band. It's never been nicknames for Penn State players while they were doing it. So it'll be interesting if Penn State is somehow more favored nationally, but still seems lesser treated by Fox than, say, the team from Columbus. I mean, I hear it. I think it's just who the guy is. That's the lead thing. I don't think it's super intentional on Fox's part, but I know fans hear it. So
I think if you, all things considered, if you strip the announcers away, I still think NBC is 1, but I think Fox is 2 based on the quality of the broadcast, what they provide to the broadcast.
That's just because you got tired of that arching shot at USC a couple of years ago.
The drone shot.
The drone shot, yeah.
I don't think CBS has figured out how to do the Big Ten yet, the way they figured out how to do the SEC. But what I do think that they have is just a better rapport, and I think that's why they rank so highly here amongst these.
Yeah,
these
and then they'll have an announcer change next year. Like, this is a lame duck season for their crew. And then they change next year too, so that'll be more change.
And people were pretty nice about the grades this year. B was the highest answer at 43%, giving a B to the beat, and A at 41%. 9% said C, and like 2% said F. So usual F crowd.
They're grumpy.
Okay.
Good stuff. Interesting stuff.
Let me briefly get to the feedback. A lot of comments about Audrey. Somebody hire Audrey. That is the echoing of the beat is what we're hearing. Some people asking for a new Dave Jones. We needed this person says we needed a new Dave Jones truth teller, and those that cover the Big Ten more holistically. And I do kind of agree with the more holistically part. There aren't many there's SEC writers, but there's not Big Ten writers. Maybe Scott Dockerman being probably the first name that comes to mind. Speaking of The Athletic,
who's the guy at ESPN too?
Adam Rittenberg.
Yeah,
that would be another name. Some people saying they would like to see Penn State's media beat, and maybe we can talk to somebody about this coming up. Be on Blue Sky a little bit more. I agree with that. As somebody that's hanging out on that space. I love this. I love. We have tougher questions from James Franklin, and then we also had for James Franklin, and then like ease up on James Franklin, and there's no happy medium. And I just think about like the irony of like one of the big media stories last year was people being pissed off at Audrey and John for asking tough questions, and then saying this season, etc. There is one person I do want to shout out. We ask for states every year of what states, so we can quantify that, which I have not quantified that. Forgot to pull that here, but this person said they answered with a bizarre state and then had to explain why in a comment in the one section. Said they live in Europe and listen to us, and I don't know who that person is, but I think it is very cool that we can bridge the continental oceanic divide of Penn Staters across the pond, if you will. And I just wanted to say,
if you're listening, hey, send an email and tell us where you're at. Give us the name, what's going on. Give us more specifics. That's great.
Yes, we can. If that is you, shoot us your address. We will try to figure out to get you some stuff this year, because it was cool to see that. That one made me excited. So yeah, maybe it's Greg.
It's coming to the family reunion. Travel the furthest. There you go. Yeah. Let us know. They get that door prize to you.
Yes, sure. Okay. Big Ten Media Day. Why we do this week is because Big Ten Media Day kicks off in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. I am interested. Joe is not going this year. He did go last year. I am interested to see the number of people that are and aren't going to the Big Ten Media Day this year, just because of how far of a trek it is. I know there were a lot of Penn State beat writers that would drive. Some of them would drive, and it's not as easy of a drive down to Las Vegas, obviously. That being said, I think where I want to go with this is kind of what are we expecting? What are three things? Let me read what I exactly asked you. What do we, Steve Samsel and Darian Summers, want to see out of Media Day? Could be Penn State, could be Big Ten, could be media related. What is your first thing, Steve?
My first thing or my third thing or my third?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't have a ranking to mind.
Okay. I have Vegas references. Some, schlocky stand-up, some, pun-filled whatever, some Vegas reference, and maybe more substantively a Vegas reference of why it's there, how it's working, right? Like, that kind of thing. Just so some scene setter from Vegas, whether it's the slot machines, whether it's the guys who have money now spending it out there somewhere, whether it's, I don't know, and is this working? You're doing this for the West Coast, for West Coast schools, ostensibly in their media. So is the contingent of West Coast media folks bigger now that you're at this than were last year? Just something that nods its head toward Vegas, I guess, would be on my list.
I am interested about that. And I actually didn't think about the whole West Coast of it all. Like, it is easier for that. Well, really just two of the schools to get out there now, I guess, and maybe it might be a little bit closer for Nebraska, all things considered. I went with, for my first thing, we always kind of see like this like moment where James Franklin like subtly, going back to Joe's point, Easter eggs, subtly announces how he's changed a little bit. Last year it was like, people expect us to win 11 games, and that's not good enough, or something like that was like the first time. And it kind of felt like last year was like that 1-0 was starting to die. That would be kind of what I took away from last year's Media Day, and particularly with James Franklin. I am interested to see what James Franklin and how James Franklin has changed this season.
It's good. It's good. Well, and 1-0 got taken by LSU, right? Like Brian Kelly. Did you see that story last?
No, I missed that.
Last week at SEC. Yeah. Last week at SEC Media Days, they were talking about losing that first game, right? They play that first game, and they're always worried about the end thing and getting there at the end, and they stumble, but they play a tough team early on, and they've changed their mentality this year, and it's 1-0, and we've got to just focus on that. I'm like, oh, well, so I guess you should have franchised that or something.
Trademarked it at least.
Trademarked it. That's what I was looking for.
Number 2.
I'm going to change it a little bit, but
Okay.
give context. I'm going to add truth teller. Like I want a truth teller to emerge. What I had was for number 2, salary list / structure / story. Like I always want to know about the, like, especially now it's NIL, we've got the stuff going on. Somebody please tell me how these kids are getting paid. How often do they get paid? What's going on? Give me a real story. How do they spend their money? Are they saving their money? That is what I'd love to have, but I would settle for a truth teller to emerge from the Penn State beat in the Dave Jones mode, like to ask those kind of things that somebody else isn't going to ask or is going to pull a punch on.
I was thinking about that in particular, like, and I think with Eli Drinkowitz with the Mizzou coach, kind of went and had some like crazy borderline, gave me Mike Leach vibes. Actually, I guess would be the best way to say that. And you know who I feel like we always get that from? Brett Bielema. I bet we'll get it from Brett Bielema.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciate that. Like, I think there's an honesty to that it takes that, like, they don't have anything to really sell us. They just kind of want to, like, be upfront about it. And I appreciate that as a
My
fan.
fourth one would have been a Brett Bielema moment. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just expecting him, if he, of all the coaches, he's the one I would expect to, like, own something, to plant a stake in the ground, to do something, to make a comment that raises some eyebrows, you know, just for kicks.
Yeah. And I'm sure that we will get something from him. Because I don't know that there's another Big Ten coach that has that level of personality. I'm trying to think. No, they got
Matt Rule, maybe. I don't know.
yeah.
Matt Rule did some recruiting stuff this summer, but no, I mean, the only one that's proven in that setting, in the media, you know, and Penn State, you know, got to make hay out of it with, you know, whiteout, whatever last stuff here in the whiteout, the fake whiteout thing. And that's fun. Like, I mean, it's not as fun when he's not winning, but it's fun when he's winning and you get to root against him and his team. So good for him.
Yeah, that was, I had thought about that.
Whiteout
Actually.
energy, sorry.
Who's the third team going to be? Like, I think that's a good question. Like, who's 3 and 4 in the Big Ten? I think,
Yep.
I think Oregon was on the was at the 3 for the Cleveland.com media poll, and then 4 was Illinois. So I think that's an interesting, like, X's and O's to it. From the Penn State perspective, I am interested to see who the it player is, if you will. So last few years, like we've had Abdul Carter, we've had to a degree Tyler Warren, even if he wasn't like the most, like, not media verse, I don't think is the right word, but just like wasn't a superstar with the media per se. Like, who is the player that the Penn State beat is going to be talking about? Is it going to be Drew? Is it going to be Nick? Is it going to be Katron? Is it going to be DDS? Like, I think that's a fascinating storyline, kind of as we're looking for storylines as we get going here into like preseason type stuff. Because like there are leaders on this team, but I don't know if I can put my thumb on a preseason leader, if that makes sense.
No, and I think this is. I mean, you know who the candidates are because the kids who traveled this week, right? Somebody's going to probably emerge maybe out of their media day that's going to flash a little personality and do something and be the face of some things somewhere along the line. And it will be interesting to see who that is. Plus, they've got to do some stuff on the field to warrant being talked to then.
No, and I think that was kind of what was interesting about Tyler Warren was like, we kind of forgot about Tyler Warren in the preseason last year. And then he happens to quite literally have like a Heisman candidacy campaign. And like, there are those expectations. I think it's fair to say on 2 players that at Penn State, like, I think it's reasonable to think that Drew Aller has Heisman expectations. And I think it's reasonable to say that Nicholas Singleton has them. And I don't know, I think you could make 2.5 with Katron too.
I was going to ask everybody. I mean, whenever you do that Singleton, everybody's like, what about Allen? So
no. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. Number 3.
I'm looking for Penn State to actually embrace its role as a favorite, right? Like, you know, you talked last year about Franklin, we're expected to win this, and that's not. I'm just at some point, right? You're your preseason top 5 at worst, maybe top 3, maybe number 1 in the conference, maybe number 1 nationally. We are Penn State. This is what we are. We understand the expectations. We're ready to go after it, right? I don't want to hear Scotty Scheffler. Oh God, it's, you know, tough to win and it's hard. Oh, we win and people don't like us. Oh, some kid in the student section saying I'm a bad dude. Don't want any of that. I just want them to embrace the role as a favorite. Go ahead. I think that would be neat. I know it's not going to happen, but that would be neat.
That is the most intriguing thing to me about this entire next month and a half is like the second the AP poll comes out, like, I mean, I picked up my Lindy's college football magazine. I forgot to bring it up here tonight. Number 2, Penn State. Like there's very legitimate expectations. I think that's the most interesting thing, and I think that's the most fascinating thing about this season as we sit here now. I can't remember. I can barely remember, I guess I should say, the last time that Penn State had this level of expectations going to the season, which would be 99, right? Like with the LeVar Arrington Sports Illustrated cover. And that in particular has been playing and rattling around in my head the most. And I think will be something we explore and talk about a little bit more as we get closer.
What's your number 1?
Number 1 or number 3, depending on how you look at it. I the Fox to all of this. So between the Portnoy thing, I think that's interesting. We might be maybe eventually getting a direct to consumer or some sort of streaming play. And how does that how does Fox kind of incorporate and continue to ingrain itself in Big Ten culture? I think I'm interested to see how that plays out. And going back to your earlier point, particularly as we move out of Big Ten country, because Vegas is not Big Ten country. Indy is the heart of Big Ten country. The Big Ten and Indianapolis are very synonymous. Maybe Chicago being the other city in my head. Vegas is not. But can Fox find a way to embrace that?
But this is the most perfect Vegas Barstool city there is, right?
Correct.
I mean,
Nashville.
Okay, yeah. But if you're going to change, that's in the middle of SEC and ACC country, right? Vegas is, no man's land in terms of rules and whatever else. So this is the perfect time for that to pop up. So yes, they have to be there. That circus has to start rolling around this week.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good call.
What are they doing to make a buzz? Okay. Yeah, that's about it. I think Penn State's day is Wednesday. I don't. Maybe we'll write something. Maybe we won't. Thursday is a big day around Penn State sports media because Roar Plus comes out. And I do think we will dive into that and take a gander, a spin around that old block on Thursday, in some depth. Anything else? Big Ten Media Day before we get to old guy and guy. Discuss.
No, now I'm intrigued about the Fox, all the Foxiness stuff that I think they have. I mean, if they don't, it's a missed opportunity, right? And I feel about that idea for you like I do about Penn State and the expectations. Go ahead and lean in on it. You've cast your lot on not being journalistically focused, not really worrying about the whole of college football. Go ahead and go all in on loud Big Ten stuff and start rolling it out at Big Ten Media Day.
Yeah, no, I'm interested in that because we had was it 2 media days ago when we had the more not watershed, but the bigger splashier moment of NBC was going to be there, CBS was going to be there, Fox was going to be there, all the parties coming together for this big happy unity ceremony. And it's now okay, Fox just went and did this relatively splashy thing. What are they going to do next? I think, and this is our first.
Well, they'll all be there. So I assume people are the same thing. The network hosts are introducing coaches, and you're hearing the bands, and because it's all about a show. It's what they've learned from the NFL and everything else. Everything's a production. So, but I wonder as well what the other partners think about that, right? If Fox makes the big splash, and then, I mean, they are invested partners as well, but a tier below because of what's their choices of games and whatever else. But what do they think about that? How do they feel about, that circus come to town?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point. Okay, and guy, what is it?
I was trying to think about how I want to frame this. So I guess I want to ask it this way, and then I'll give context, and then we'll go. Are there things that you did when you were middle school to teenage you can't imagine explaining to someone what that is now, or that was possible?
And
so here's
go ahead, give the context.
So here's my context in this. So I don't know how old I was, maybe 8 or 10, and I got confirmation of this. I knew it happened, but I was just checking at the family reunion this weekend with an older cousin. We went from central Pennsylvania, myself and probably 5 cousins in that one family, their parents and my parents. We went together to Niagara Falls in a pickup truck. So 3 people sat in the front probably, and the rest of us were in the back seat of the pickup truck with a cab on, right? And maybe there was a piece of indoor outdoor carpet back there with us, and maybe we had our pillows, and we drove from 4 hours, probably one way, 4.5 hours one. But I don't think that was unusual in the 70s, like the late 60s, early 70s. I think if you had a big family, you threw them in the back of the truck, right? Like, I can't imagine that happening now, right? I mean, right, like the face you're making. But we traveled so many places in the back of a pickup truck.
I have not. It has probably been 20 years since I've been in the back of a pickup truck while it's been driving down the road. But I have, yes, done that before. I was thinking about it like we would go make little water bottle bombs from cleaning solutions in the middle of the woods. Like those types of, done that. I've done that. And if my mom is listening, she knows that there's she knows that I have a story about her when she was that age where she got in trouble because she may or may not have lit something, made the firework go off, and that was seen in various smoke grates around the thriving metropolis of Norrie, Pennsylvania.
And I guess we were pre SUVs and pre like
you didn't
Ford
have
Expeditions, right? Like I can remember sitting on my grandparents' porch in the middle of nowhere, like Cumming County, and people would come by with, like, on a weeknight, like, and their family was just sitting in the back of a truck in lawn chairs or whatever, right? And they all went out to see people, right? Maybe they didn't go far; they went a couple miles total. I mean, us going to Canada up and back was like 4 hours one way, and I'm sure they just threw us back in there and were like, "Here, go at it. Sit there and be quiet and don't get out," you know? So I can't imagine. I mean, when I told my daughters that, and they're like, "You did what?" So I don't know what that would be for you, but I did want to see your face when we traveled this way.
Well, that's a long drive, like that, because all I'm picturing is like the like uneven edges of like a pickup truck. Like,
in the bed, right?
Yeah. And like getting like your finger like caught on one of those and how much that hurts. Well, kind of like we said, we kicked off the season today. It was a football-centric episode. We haven't done one of those since January, so that's always fun to do. We'll do more of those as we get going here. We've got some guests lined up. We've got some things to talk about. I need to check the calendar. I think we're still like 2-ish weeks from really starting to write about football. Let me check the content calendar here. Yes, next week I've been working on we've talked about this a little bit, but I've been working on not a special project, a special machine, if you will, to help people maybe take more educated guesses on when Penn State football games will be later on in the football, using your data, which I appreciate you collecting as fact of it. So that will roll out next week. I also have something else on the website, which I'm going to show you after we're done here. That one will be fun, and that will go live a little bit closer to the season. I'm also going to start working on stuff designs, so stuff year 3 coming out relatively soon. Yeah. Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Good. I'm glad you're excited because I'm excited. Thank you to Joe for joining us. Thank you to everybody that's filled out the media survey. Really appreciate that. Thanks for sticking with us through a longer podcast today. Also really appreciate that. Let's see where to begin. We have a website that's called StuffSummerSays.com. On that website, there's a section called With
Steve.
Perfect. 5 stars, thumbs up. Please do all of that stuff. Please subscribe. It'd be nice if we could get to like 200 subscribers on our YouTube channel before football season. I think that's going to be my ask as we get going here. I would appreciate that if you haven't done that. Let's see. What else? We have emails. Mine's Darian at StuffSummerSays.com. Steve's is?
Steve at StuffSummerSays.com.
Perfect. Lastly, you can find me on the internet at StuffSummerSays. You can find Steve
at Steve Samsel.
See ya. Bye.